Moy,
Here.
Councilmember Panduro,
Here.
Councilmember Tim,
Here.
Councilmember Tonneson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Vaccaro,
Here.
and Mayor Price.
Here.
Thank you.
And the invocation this evening will be led by Pastor Alex Ledoux, Samoan American Church. Good, please.
Thank you. With those willing, let us pray. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Lord, as we enter into the month of Thanksgiving, we give you thanks for all that you've done for us and all that you're going to do for us. We lift up your community in prayer. We lift up the greatest city in Solano County to you in prayer, dear Lord. So we pray for our leaders. We pray for our city officials, Lord. Give them the wisdom, give them counsel, give them understanding to make the difficult decisions in our city, dear Lord. We lift up our schools, our teachers, Lord. We lift up our first responders, our local businesses, Lord. We also lift up the election that is upcoming. Lord, we just pray for your grace to be over us. Your word tells us that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. So, Lord, we pray for your blessings over this meeting. Lord, be with them, give them the wisdom. In your name we pray, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Hey, Councilmember Tim, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we turn now to council reports. Councilwoman Panduro, would you like to begin, please?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to acknowledge that today is November the 1st, and November the 1st and November the 2nd is usually, it is the Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is celebrated in Mexico and in other Latin American countries. And so I just wanted to acknowledge and recognize that many of our families are honoring that day today. We are mourning the loss and also remembering the lives of those that we have lost. And I know my family members were out cemetery today, and I'll be out going to visit family tomorrow. So I just wanted to make sure that we all continue to remember our loved ones who have passed. And also wanted to give an update on the 2x2, the Cap Solano JPA. Myself and Vice Member Vaccaro attended the last meeting about a week or so ago. And we reviewed and approved proposed changes to the bylaws. We received presentations on housing and homelessness incentive programs, or the HIP grant program, and also on the homeless housing assistance and prevention, or the HAP program. And we discussed future board topics. Again, these meetings are open to the public. Anyone is able to attend, and anyone is able to make a comment. So I encourage anyone who is interested in what is going on with regards to homelessness in the city and county to attend these meetings. Lastly, I just wanted to make a statement. For the record, I am running for re-election to represent District 5, to represent my city and the community that raised me. There is no backroom deal for anything but me running for my seat. Those are false accusations, and it's astounding that a phone can't be picked up and the question be asked, because I have been nothing but honest and transparent and hardworking these past 2 years. I have worked hard to build bridges, be a collaborator, and do what's in the best interest of our city. And it would be out of character for me to act adversely to that. When my name is being used for others' political gain, I question why. So let me be clear, there is no backroom deal. I do not work for Councilmember Tonneson, and my vote will always come from a place of factual research and not influence. I am done with the lies, plots, and deceit. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Tonneson, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. The downtown had their annual trick or treat, and this was I believe the biggest amount of businesses that opened. There was 31 of the businesses that handed out candy to the kids. Approximately 200 plus kids came down there, but it was a great time. And I want to give a shout out to the Mac Garcia Foundation. They did a fantastic job. They had movie night, and as always, Debbie Taby was down there working hard. So good things are going on downtown, and we look forward to the coming Veterans Day parade and the Christmas tree lighting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Tim, please, your report.
Yeah, thank you. Councilwoman Doris Panduro, well said. Well said. I had opportunity to go to the eastbound truck scales. You know, you see the scales on the freeway, right? And they opened up, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, about $105 million. So the westbound scales are pretty much getting shovel ready, except they need about $240 million. But the technology in there, number one, it's proprietary. They wouldn't let us take pictures. But it is absolutely amazing when those trucks exit the freeway at 50 or 55, how the sensors can pick up if they have bald tires or a crack in the frame. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they want to put through, well, the capability will be 1,000 trucks an hour. And now they can do, what, about 800 a day? So anyway, we're trying to find $240 million, us, STA, the state. But it gives you a new respect for when you drive by the scales and see what they do. So that was probably one of the best tours that we'd had in forever. So I just wanted to give a shout out to STA and MTC and CHP and everybody with initials, but they got it going on, and they are very, very accurate and safe. And that's their biggest thing, is safety. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. And I would just like to add to your report, if I might, that is the result now of extensive lobbying, both at the state level as well as at the federal level. And Caltrans is, at times they have difficulties, but when they come together and they look out for the interests of the folks who live in Solano County, particularly Fairfield, it really works very well. Councilwoman Moy, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to start by saying that we, a couple of us, Councilwoman Panduro and I, went to, it was great, the Senior Center, or the ARC, the Adult Recreation Center, and celebrated Halloween with them. And let me just tell you, these folks they were singing and dancing, and it was beautiful, and it was so fun. And if you ever get a chance to do that, you got to hang around with these people. They are wonderful and entertaining. And so I appreciate everything that the Senior Center did, or the ARC, and also our staff was very much involved and did a great job. So that was fun. I wanted to also say that that the other day, I don't know how many days it's been now, but there was a podcast that was put out from our communications manager, and it was about the fentanyl. Now, a few months ago, I had a meeting that was open to everybody, the public, about fentanyl, because people, kids, young people and older people, are dying here in Fairfield from taking fentanyl. And I was really, really happy to hear that the school district and the city are going to be working together to do some more town hall meetings. And we're going to have, of course, the professionals. We have a great detective, Barker, who knows the nitty-gritty about it, and well-educated. And of course, he does this for a living, going out to help people who are abusing drugs, and also to educate. It's so important. You really have to understand, this isn't a joke. You know, kids, young people will experiment, but with fentanyl, one pill and people die. That happened with kids here in Fairfield, a 15-year-old, and young people throughout our county. So I just wanted to say I'm really happy to see how that is. We're going to see a lot more education about it. It's super important, and it's just one of the scariest thing. It's a #1 killer of people who are between 18 and 35. I think I might be off, but it's the #1 killer in the country for that age group. So kids, don't take, anybody, don't take a pill unless you got it from the doctor. It's not worth it. And then the last thing that I wanted to say was, Over the weekend, it was on Saturday, a resident contacted me about a woman, and she had been sleeping outside in front of North Bay Hospital and on the sidewalk there, and they were concerned for her. So I went out to check on her, and she was homeless, and she was also had a disability and was in a wheelchair. She'd had one of her legs amputated. And so I called and made some calls around, and then on Monday yesterday, our homeless intervention team again, our heroes, went and helped her. And I want to say I'm so thankful for Shelter Solano. They had a spot for her, and she's safe now. And she really does want to go home, she told me, which is in the Carolinas. She only came out here because she was born here. So I think it's interesting the number of people, because I talk to homeless people a lot every week, and more of them are not from here. They come here from other places. The last 4 that I talked to absolutely are not from here. They didn't become homeless here, but for some reason we're drawing them. And I ask them, but they give different reasons. But I just wanted to say that the homeless intervention team, I said it last time and I'll say it again, is awesome. And the work that they're doing, and with Shelter Solano to get the needs of these people answered, it really, really, really made me happy. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bertani, please, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I want to remind everybody that we're going to have a changing of the guards here pretty soon. And so on November 3rd, we will all be at Willow Hall at 11 a.m. 10 a.m., Pamela. Didn't you correct me last time? Wow. Okay, well, it's in ink now. 10 a.m., Willow Hall, to celebrate Chief Cantrell, who has done a tremendous job here in the city of Fairfield for us and has really created and sustained the kind of culture around policing that really brings community together. And we all know that that doesn't happen everywhere. And so because it's happening here, Chief, I just want to publicly thank you for the culture that you bring and that you've shared with us. We love you and we're going to miss you. And Big Dan Marshall is going to be sworn in on the 7th of November as our new chief. And I understand this is going to be at the Downtown Theater, Hollywood Dan. Okay. So I see you. I see. So that's going to be at 3 p.m. at the Downtown Theater on Monday, November the 7th. So we just want to welcome Dan, who has been a part of this community for a really long time, really understands community policing, and the city of Fairfield. So we are in good hands. So Daniel, thank you for your continued service for the city. All right. I also want to tell you that we had a great Clergy Action Network meeting on last Tuesday, the Fairfield Clergy Action Network. We had our first in a series of panel discussions with Travis Air Force Base servicemen. And the issue on the table was, how can the city of Fairfield, the Clergy Action Network, and Travis Air Force Base work together to support our Travis Air Force Base heroes? We learned that one of the biggest issues that our Travis Air Force men and women deal with is not going into battle, into harm's way, into Afghanistan, into these dangerous places to protect our freedoms. Where they struggle a lot is coming back home and re-engaging in the community after they've been through what they've been through. And we had conversations on Tuesday about some of the things they've been through, as you might imagine, horrific. So the Clergy Action Network had this panel discussion with Colonel Richardson, who is the chaplain at Travis Air Force Base, and several of his men who came out and talked to us and discussed ways that we as the city, we as the Clergy Action Network, can engage our men and women at Travis and cultivate a meaningful relationship with them to help them go and do what they do for us every single day. So I'm going to ask the city manager to allow Kelly Ballard to help me put together a report so that I can report out comprehensively on the outcome of that meeting. But what's exciting is this: you would not believe how, or maybe you would believe how fired up our men and women are about engaging the faith community here in Fairfield. They want to know, how can we help? Where can we go? How can we plug in? And so what the Clergy Action Network is going to do in the coming weeks and months and years is to start building some ministries around focusing on the needs of our Travis Air Force men and women. We have great support from them. They're going to help us do that in efficient ways. I understand the Father's House has a tremendous ministry around Travis Air Force Base and supporting our men and women out there. So I will just stop there. I'll tell you more to come on the Clergy Action Network and our cultivating our relationships with them as we move forward. I want to thank Bill Way and his team. They put together a fabulous welcoming video from the Clergy Action Network that we played at our meeting last Tuesday. I want to thank Mayor Price for showing up and addressing Travis Air Force Base men and women who are here. And I think we're going to play the video. I'm good. Actually, you're good. Really good.
Well, Councilwoman Bertani, you are an amazing person bringing all those folks together in a very meaningful and significant way. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a really good team.
Greetings, men and women and families of Travis Air Force Base.
Hi, I'm Richard West, pastor of Liberty Church.
My name is Christian Bravo. I'm pastor of Liberty Church in Español.
Hi, my name is Chris Day. I'm the pastor at the Fairfield Community Seventh-day Adventist Church. We just want to say a huge thank you to all the airmen and women at Travis Air Force Base.
We are so excited to have you as a panel at our meeting.
We want to welcome you to our community and get to know you. And we're glad that you are here. Looking forward to building a meaningful relationship as we move forward in this community.
We are so appreciative of all of our airmen and women who make a difference in the world.
We love you. We thank you. We appreciate the work that you do. You are our heroes.
And I just want to say thank you so much for your service to your country, actually our country. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, meeting you, and talking about ways that we can better serve you more effectively.
Travis, thank you. It's awesome that we're in this community surrounded by people like yourselves who sacrifice so much. So thank you for your service to our country and your service to our community.
I am so proud of all of you, and I just want to thank you for your service to our country, to our community, and for all that you do. I pray God's blessings over you.
We are praying for you guys. And
so the technical glitch on there. We get the gist.
Thank you, Bill. It was clear when you played it the other day, so not sure what's up. But anyway, they loved the video. We had a great time. More to come on that. The last thing I'll say, the Clergy Action Network, again, is on the move. We are hosting a Thanksgiving dinner on Tuesday, November 22nd, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and it's going to be at Willow Hall from 12:30 to 2. We have lots of food, lots of volunteers, but you know what we need? We need some more sides. So we have about 70 turkeys donated so far. They will be cooked, and they will be brought to Willow Hall on that morning, and we will be there serving. If you are interested in volunteering, helping us serve, it's going to be a sit-down meal. We're going to have goodie bags with toiletries. We're going to have coats. It's going to be a fabulous, fun party and a great meal. But we do need sides, meaning dressing, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes and gravy. And if you are interested in helping us with that, you can bring the warm dish on Tuesday morning around 10 o'clock or so, and just bring it straight to Willow Hall, and we'll take it from there. We could really use your help with that. So if you or someone you know is willing to help us with sides, please contact Pastor Ann Choi. She is the senior pastor at Community United Methodist Church, and her phone number is 707-426-2944. All right, so Pastor Ann Choi, Community United Methodist Church, 426-2944. And you can definitely call me. My number is 707-628-6974, 628-6974. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Sorry for taking so long.
Good report. Mr. Vice Mayor, your report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that report, too, Pam. Also, I want to thank Chief Cantrell, too, for all she's done for the city and for the people in the city, for the council. You've been great since day one, so thank you from personal note. And also welcome our new chief, Dan Marshall, who I'm sure is going to do a great job. Like Councilwoman Bertani said, Dan's been so inclusive in the community, just like Chief Cantrell, and I know this is going to continue from you passing it on to, it'll be Chief Marshall in about a week. So just wanted to touch on that. Also, real quick, I hope everyone had a safe Halloween. I know I was around a lot of young kids last night. It seemed like things went pretty smooth. I'm not sure how it went in the city, but it sounds like it did. So hopefully everyone had a safe one. Also, November 16th, I just want to clarify this, Mr. City Manager. I was contacted by a citizen about a month and a half ago up in Paradise Valley, and his concern was of some of the crime that's going on up there. So we are planning on having a meeting, a neighborhood meeting, on November 16th at 7 p.m. at Paradise Valley. I contacted Mr. Benowitz today, so he's excited. He's going to put it on next door, try to get some people there. So for those who live up in the area and like to attend, and I guess even if you don't live in the area and want to attend, I'm sure it's going to be it'll be a good meeting, honest meeting. Also, I did attend the truck stop with some of my colleagues. That was exciting. I didn't realize some of those trucks stay there about 3 or 4 days because they don't have the right paperwork, which I didn't understand. I didn't realize that, but that was exciting. On the final thing I want to say, I've never addressed a letter to the editor in public. I feel the need to do that tonight. Marilyn Farley wrote a letter to the editor and basically took some shots at a few of us up here on the council, and I understand, that's everybody's right, everybody's free speech, but it's my free speech too, to say what I want to say. A lot of us and a lot of people mentioned in that article have done a lot of good for people in the community, for the youth, and the underserved. And on a personal note, and then let me just also say if Marilyn was here, I would say the same thing. On a personal note, she's very dismissive, too, of all the work that I've done with youth and the underserved in this community over the last 25 or 30 years. Does not take that into account at all, never will. And to me, that it bothers me a little, but I feel like she needs to be called out on that, because it's really okay, I guess, to just, like I said, take shots in the paper. But if she was here, I would say the same thing. Explain yourself, which she pretty much did. But don't be dismissive of the good things that people do either. And that's what bothers me more than anything, Mayor. So I felt the need to say that. Like I said, in the 14 years I've been up on this dais, I've never said that. I've never answered a letter to the editor. but I felt I needed to tonight because I've just about had it with some of her remarks. So thank you.
Thank you, and I should like to report that on Saturday I was invited over to St. Stephen's CME Church here in Fairfield, and I was invited by the Reverend Dr. David Isom because they created an algebra program several years ago because they were concerned about their youthful church members who were not doing very well in math and science. And I was really impressed with that. But on Saturday morning, I was invited over again to take a look at a new program, and this is a 501c charitable trust, and it was created by one of the members of the church, Anthony McDonald. And what it was designed to do, they were attracting mostly young African-American males from all over the area, including some who came from as far away as Oakland. And their whole purpose was to serve those young people with an expectation of what they can become if they take advantage of it. And one of the first things they did that morning, they introduced me, and then they introduced 3 local businessmen. And we became the folks who talked about what can be done. The upshot of that whole program was really reassuring because at the end of the day, each one of those students was given a complete wardrobe, free of charge. They were given some advice by each of the 4 of us who were speaking, and with the understanding that they could achieve whatever they wanted to. So I commend that church for what they're doing for young people. And then this morning I went out to my old alma mater, Vanden High School, along with many other candidates for election. And the whole purpose, of course, was to make those students keenly aware of the candidates and their positions and why they were choosing to run for election this time of year. And I assured them that my 33 years teaching out there led me into a life of public service, which includes serving on the city council. And one very astute young lady said, "Why are you running again?" And I said, "Because my community needs me. And if I am reelected, I will continue to serve." And I really appreciate all of you and your commitment to public service as well. So thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, your report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, I agree with Councilwoman Bertani and Vice Mayor Vaccaro. Police Chief Cantrell, thank you very much for your time here. Much appreciated. I'll have more comments on Thursday, but I just also want to publicly acknowledge everything you've done for us. And Captain Marshall, soon to be Chief Marshal, get ready. We got a lot of work ahead. So the other thing that I'll share real quick is over this past weekend, a couple of comments here at the dais as well about Travis Air Force Base and certainly the importance of Travis Air Force Base in this community. Certainly it's one of our most consequential economic drivers, over 11,000 jobs, $2.5 billion in total economic impact. Over this past weekend, I had the distinct pleasure of joining Team Travis at one of the Air Force's Airlift Tanker Association conferences. It was a great opportunity to learn a lot more about what the focus of Travis Air Force Base and airlift overall within the Air Force is, and how we as the Fairfield community can help to support them. And so we recently received a grant that's going to be helping us look at some infrastructure and potentially create a pipeline for infrastructure projects that benefit Travis Air Force Base and continue our support there. So I just want to express appreciation to Team Travis for allowing me to join them in that endeavor and learn from them. And then on November 11th, we have our Veterans Day Parade coming up, so that'll be before the next council meeting. At 10 a.m., we will have a commemoration concert at the Downtown Theater, and then at 12:30, we will have the annual Veterans Day Parade, so please, members of the public, come on downtown. Should be an event worth attending. And then lastly, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on your agenda under the consent calendar, item number 4, we realized earlier that there was an attachment missing, so we provided that here at the dais for you. We've amended the online version, and there is a copy in the back of the room as well for any members of the public that would like to view the amendment to that contract. And that concludes my comments.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
And Madam Attorney, would you like to report on the closed session, please?
Good evening. In the closed session, the city attorney gave a report and the council provided direction, and we have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you very much. We turn now to City Clerk, if you would, please. Your report.
I just wanted to thank Solano Recovery Project for adopting Lee Bell Park. Thanks to Gone for Good, who was the previous adopter. And I guess I'll be accepting the proclamation, which is the next item. Proclamation declaring Extra Mile Day presented by Councilmember Doris Panduro.
Okay, so we have here today a proclamation for Extra Mile Day. So whereas Fairfield, California is a community which acknowledges a special vibrancy exists within the community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Fairfield, California is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to the individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Fairfield, California is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Fairfield, California acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 Extra Mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November the 1st, 2022. Now, therefore, I, Harry T. Price, Mayor of the City of Fairfield, California, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2022 to be Extra Mile Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place. And I'm giving this to Ms. Karen Reese, and I think very appropriate as she heads up our volunteer adopted parks and our Parker Streets, and she's the one that helps us to acknowledge those individuals who do go the extra mile for our city. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
And we turn now, Madam Clerk, if you would, please, public comments.
Persons wishing to address the City Council on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. The council cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting, but council members may briefly respond to statements made or questions raised by the public, ask for clarification from staff, refer the matter to staff, request staff to report back to the council at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. To speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 on your phone if you're online, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item. And our first speaker is Jeff Traeger, to be followed by Jerry Ann Guzman.
Mayor, members of the City Council. This Saturday night, we are honored to have the great Pete Escobedo and his Latin Jazz Orchestra. And I just want to play a little bit, I got a short little clip reel I want to show. So
If it echoes, I'm gonna.
let's see if this works. He is very, very good. Doesn't? I'd just like to say something about the 86-year-old Pete. Pete is the thread to a lot of the great Latin musicians of the past, like Tito Puente, Mongo Santa Maria, and the original Santana Band, which he was a part of. But what impressed me most about Pete was he was such a compassionate human being. Maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, Doris and her aunt Margarita and myself and others put on a breast cancer awareness event over on the community lawn, and we needed some performers. So I called up Pete, and Pete knew how sick that Margarita was, and he says where and when. And he got in the car with his son, and they drove up from Los Angeles, put together this great band. And so I can't say enough about the greatness of Pete Escovedo, and it's just great that he's been able to perform here in probably one of his last performances. So that's what we got. It's just touching that someone, it's musicians, some give back, some don't. Pete never took a dime for this. He drove all the way up, and he paid for all the musicians to play out of his own pocket. So this is where this guy was at. So if you get a chance, you can get your tickets by going to thedowntowntheater.com. And thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey, as always.
Next speaker, Jerry Ann Guzman, to be followed by John Takeuchi.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jerry Ann Guzman. I am the founder, I am the president and executive director of Solano Serenity Center, located here in Solano County. I also sit on the boards of the Seven Generations Intertribal Council, AIM Foothills Central California. I also sit on the board of Solano AIDS Coalition and All Indigenous Missing and Murdered. I'm here to address you tonight about a problem we're having on Union Street, Union Avenue, here in Fairfield. My family moved up here 18 months ago. In those 18 months, we've had 3 homeless people hit, and we today had a dog hit by a bus in the middle of the street. There was a cat that was hit last week. The speeds that people are going up and down that street are dangerous, including, and I'm sorry, Chief, your police officers as well. They're doing at least 40 miles an hour up and down the street. The street is not a racetrack. It is a narrow 2-lane street next to Lee Bell Park. I live at the corner of Oregon and Union at 1313. This is ridiculous. When the last person that got hit out there, which was a homeless man and his dog, we have it on videotape, by the way. I have the dog that got hit today on videotape because we have 13 cameras. I brought my 11-year-old granddaughter here because she can't even go to the park safely across the street. Her father is in an electric wheelchair. He cannot traverse the street to go straight across the park. He has to go all the way around and come in on the opposite side. We've already talked to Public Works, and they never gave us a phone call back. We spoke to the police department the night that that gentleman got hit in the middle of the street. It was a hit and run. We had it on tape. Okay? They suggested that we call the city manager to see what we can do about putting a lighted crosswalk in, or speed bumps, or some type of speed control. That street is a 25-mile-an-hour 2-lane street, not a 40-mile-an-hour racetrack. I do not want to come here every 2 weeks to complain about this. I do not want to have my granddaughter hit, or me hit getting into a car on the street because these jokers want to race up and down that street. Now, I'm sorry that I have to come this way. I'm only a resident here for 18 months. I came from Vallejo. I've lived in Solano County 61 years. But I know that we can have change, and I know that it's you people here who can make that change. If you wish to contact me, my email has been given to the clerk. If you have any questions or would like to personally sit down and chat, I will be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Ms. Guzman, if you want, you can chat with Captain Marshall right there. Happy to chat with you right now if you'd like.
Next speaker, John Takeuchi, to be followed by Brandon Worth.
Welcome, John.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Is this on?
It's on.
I
You're
guess
on.
so, okay. Last week, the Daily Republic published our Tax Watcher column on term limits. I imagine you all caught it. And I thought I needed to just say a few more words on this. First of all, I'm not pointing a finger at anybody in particular, okay? I've watched city councils for almost 30 years, believe it or not. And members come and go. I think every one of you that comes on board has the best interest of the city in mind and wants to make this the best city possible. I don't have a problem with that. But I've noticed that over time, city council members, some of them, for lack of a better term, become complacent. Okay? You listen to people's comments or complaints, and you pass them on to city council or city staff, and that's the last we hear of it. You know, unlike the closed sessions there, the attorney or nobody ever seems to follow up and what happened to this issue. Okay? So that's part of it. You read agenda packages, okay? Never ask very few questions, and the public has no idea what's in those things. You know, I guess I'm one of the few people that reads the silly thing, so there. In 1991, voters passed Prop 140. That was term limits, remember that? Term limits for state officials, okay? The following spring, the state legislature started to think about maybe term limits for local governments. They never did anything about it, other than talk about it. But that city council, the 92 city council, asked the same question. And they formed a committee to look around, to research and study that thing and provide a report. We provided the report in April of '92. Mayor Price was on that committee. It was a good group of guys. I think there was 8 of us to start with. There were probably a half a dozen hardcore that showed up every time. And I put a copy of the report on your desk there. Okay. Anyway, the council put it to the test. It appeared on the November '92 ballot, okay, with our recommendations. We recommended 2 4-year terms, and then you sit out for 4 years. You can run again after a 4-year break. Okay. The vote was overwhelming in favor of those recommendations. People want term limits. They want the idea of bringing new blood in every so often because you get stale after a while. I mean, I've watched this happen. Okay. So anyway, our taxpayers are asking you to do it again, to put it on the ballot and see what the public says. I'm sure the result will be the same. Okay, and this is not a slam against anybody of you or anybody else. It's just I think we need to change. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Next, we have Brandon Worth.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Councilmember Moy, thank you for the positive story. Certainly, that's what we experience at Shelter Solano every day. And City Manager, you had a glimpse of that last week during an evening meeting that we happened to be in together. He witnessed a request for help with Shelter Solano. We are extremely proud of the work that Shelter Inc. has done since we were awarded the operations of the shelter at 310 Beck Avenue by the City of Fairfield in February of 2019. We were selected due to our proven track record of helping people rebuild their lives with resources, skills building, and assistance to return the homeless to self-sufficiency. For 3.5 years, Shelter Inc. has operated the shelter in Fairfield despite a pandemic, successfully stewarding public funds, attracting private donors, improving the facility, and most importantly, changing people's lives, keeping them safe and secure 24/7, 365 days a year. This fiscal year, starting on July 1st, Shelter Solano has helped 178 people who were homeless, 60% of whom were homeless in Fairfield. Of those we served the first quarter of the year, 19 were children and 16 were veterans. In fact, one of our recent success stories was Robert, a veteran whose story I would like to share. This is Robert. Robert's a 75-year-old honorably discharged U.S. Air Force veteran who came to Shelter Solano in March of 2022. His Social Security benefits stretched only so far, and as costs for everything kept rising, he lost his housing. Robert had always worked steadily following military service, but he had never signed up for veterans' benefits. Establishing his present need and record of military service took time. With the help of his case manager, he was able to corroborate his service and finally started receiving VA health services and benefits. Then his case manager directed him to a housing navigator who found him in an appropriate senior living apartment. Robert exited Shelter Solano in July and remains thankful for the support and guidance he received under Shelter Inc. I'd like to thank you and everyone in the community who has invested in our most vulnerable neighbors through Shelter Inc. By funding the shelter, you have created a refuge for those needing a fresh start. You also enhance the quality of life for everyone in Fairfield by reducing the number of homeless people in our public spaces. Shelter Inc. believes that everyone deserves a safe, clean home. Your moral support of Shelter Solano is the embodiment of a community that is justice-centered and compassionate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else wish to speak? I don't have any hands raised online.
Okay, then we'll turn to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, please.
All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion unless a member of the City Council or the public requests that separate action be taken on a specific item.
And Madam Clerk, do we have any request to speak cards on the consent calendar?
No, I do not.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as submitted. It's been moved by Councilman Tim, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Item 6, new business, Resolution 2022-291 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield supporting and proclaiming November 13th through 19th, 2022 United Against Hate Week. And our presenter is our Vice Mayor Vaccaro.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just real briefly, when I was contacted about this last year, Fairfield joining the different cities in the Bay Area, standing united against hate, I said I'm sure that my colleagues on this council will be with me on this. So thank you, everybody on the council, for this. Okay, so I'll start out. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Fairfield supporting and proclaiming November 13 through 19, 2022, United Against Hate Week. Whereas the United States is a nation of immigrants whose strength comes from its diversity, and whereas the United States Constitution enshrines equality on all individuals, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or political views. And whereas in April 2021, the City Council unanimously adopted Resolution 2021-60 condemning hate crimes, attacks, and attitudes against the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. And whereas in April 2021, the Council unanimously adopted Resolution 2021-78 denouncing hate crimes and violence against all persons, and reaffirming the City of Fairfield's commitment to ensure all members of the Fairfield community feel safe and welcome in the city. And whereas education, compassion, and cooperation are key to unlocking understanding and embracing differences between people. And whereas the City of Fairfield is dedicated to preventing and opposing hate and intolerance in our community. And whereas the City of Fairfield seeks to join other Bay Area, California communities and communities across the country in supporting and proclaiming November 13 through 19, 2022 as United Against Hate Week, which is an important step in bridging divisions and strengthening communities. Now, therefore, the Council of the City of Fairfield hereby resolves, Section 1, the City Council hereby proclaims the week of November 13 through 19, 2022 as United Against Hate Week, and will support and encourage appropriate educational and community events during the week and each and every day beyond. Just real quickly, I just wanted to say, I think I said this when I read the last one, the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, the attacks that were going on. So, my wife was a victim 38 years ago on an airplane because of her ethnicity and the color of her skin. I was on that plane at the time, and I can tell you, when you witness something like that, it's a horrible thing to see. But it also, sometimes it makes you stronger, and it makes you want to fight harder. And anybody who knows Sue knows how tough she is and how hard she fought. So I just wanted to say I'm glad that I was given the opportunity to read this. And I know in the City of Fairfield, we pride ourselves on diversity and who we are. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to do this.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item, Madam Clerk?
No, I do not.
Entertain a motion then to approve. Been moved by Councilman Bertani, seconded by Councilman Tim. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We turn then to item 17, please, Madam Clerk.
Item 7, Lee Bell Neighborhood Park Restroom Update. And our presenter is Caroline Vetter, Associate Civil Engineer.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Caroline Vetter, Associate Civil Engineer with the Public Works Department. Tonight I'm here to provide an update on options for restrooms at Lee Bell Neighborhood Park as requested at the July 5th council meeting. There are 4 options to consider at the park. The first option is to not add restrooms at the park and leave it as is. There's no construction costs with that, no timeline associated. The second option is to add porta potties on an as-needed basis through special events permit or reservations through the park department. Staff has contacts with vendors to assist the applicants with securing facilities for their events. Those are a couple $100s, and there's initial setup and then takeaway, and like I said, existing contracts, so not much time associated with that. A third option is to add porta potty facilities with a permanent structure around it so that the facilities don't get knocked over or anything like that. There's additional capital costs associated with that for the permanent facility, and then there's ongoing maintenance costs associated with that as well. And that would be probably a 2 to 3 year timeline for budgeting and putting it into the CIP project list. And then option 4 would be to add a permanent facility, so something similar to what's at Allen Witt or Cordelia. Again, there's an initial capital cost associated with that, as well as ongoing maintenance costs, and the initial capital cost for that is pretty significant. And that also would have a 2 to 3 year timeline of budgeting and getting it into the CIP project list. If council were to direct staff to pursue option 3 or 4, we would recommend that there is some outreach that proceeds going into design for those options. And part of that is because of the past history at Lee Bell of there used to be a restroom building there, and there was community outreach involved in taking that down. So we'd want to re-engage the neighborhood and see if there's any input from them on that. So to just expand on that, between 2014 and 2017, the community expressed significant concerns about the safety of the existing restroom and storage building that was at Lee Bell Neighborhood Park. The staff engaged the neighborhood and asked what they would like to see done to address those safety concerns, as well as any other concerns at the park. And in response to the community input, staff elected to demolish the restroom and storage building, and replace that vacated area with a children's play area with a military theme in recognition of Travis Air Force Base. Also, since the restroom building and storage facility were removed, there's been roughly a 50% reduction in reported crime and service calls at Lee Bell Park. And those crime stats obviously came from our police department, and it's great news. What I have here for you is, if council directs staff to pursue option 3 or 4, a proposed timeline for pursuing those options. From now through, say, about March, we would be able to put together and implement an outreach strategy with the residents and collect data on that, as well as a survey. And then in conjunction with that, coordinate it with the 5-year CIP development and 2-year budget development that the city puts together. So at this time, I'll open it up to any questions or comments that you may have.
Any comments or questions, colleagues? Councilman Tonneson, please.
Sure. Besides the excitement that I can't contain. So I love the idea. I'd like to see, you know, it's not a secret that where I live. And it's not a secret that I'm a fan of PD. So over 10 years, and I'm just doing some quick math because I didn't see this until we got here tonight. So over 10 years, 932 calls for service, probably more than that. But, and again, I see it out my front window. It's not something that you know, when we get complaints on homelessness and all that, it depends on where you live. I mean, for me, that's commonplace. I live in the inner city. So, but Lee Bell Park, I've gone over numerous times, and I know I've seen Pam over there numerous times too. There's hundreds of kids there. I mean, hundreds on a weekly basis. So I just broke down some numbers in, say, 52 weeks a year. They're not there 52 weeks a year. They're there half the year. They're probably there more than half the year. But let's just say it's 26 weeks at 100 kids. That's 2,600 kids for no bathrooms. It's crazy. So I go over and I talk to the groups, and the last time I went over, every one of them wants bathrooms, and I think I knew that answer was coming. But the one that kind of stuck with me the most was one of the guys said, "We love the park, but we have it was a cheerleading group of 20 or 30, I don't forget how many kids it was, but they said, we love Lee Bell, but we're switching to another park in another part of town because we don't have the restrooms." He goes, and we can't do that. So we I went to some other teams, and even the boys, you know, the parents say, you know, use the restroom before you go to Lee Bell because you know there's no restrooms there. And it's just, so I've been on here for almost 2 years. I've been asking for this for almost 2 years, and I'm over the top happy to see that you guys are trying to make this happen. What I would like to see, and I know city manager and we talked about maybe some CDBG funds or some different type of funding that could be used for ballparks. But I would like to see, because the crowds are going to slow down now as we come into the colder months. But I would like to see us do a version. I would like to plan on number 4 and do it some way that everybody has homeless issues. California homeless is not a rare thing. So there are groups that have bathrooms, permanent bathrooms, and they figure out a way. So I'd like to see a porta potty on a regular basis. I mean, Christina's in the room. I don't know what the number of kids are, and I don't know if those people are reserving that field. You know, because when you say reserve the field, how many people actually reserve it? And I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just kind of speaking out loud a little bit. But yes, fantastic. 2, and then 2 years down the road, 4 would be my request. Thank you.
Councilman Bertani, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilman Tonneson, for those comments, and thank you for a great report. Here's my issue. 50% less crime with the bathrooms gone. I mean, think about that. And some of us who were here, we remember the last straw when we just said, rip it down, because those bathrooms were a mess. Drugs, crime, sex, going on in those bathrooms, very unsafe. So I'm not opposed to having a facility. I am opposed to doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So we have to do it differently. They have to be, so, I mean, I'm right now unsure what direction to give you because I don't have enough information yet. I can tell you right now, if there's a permanent structure there that is not fully secured overnight, I'm not voting for it. No way. Because we know what's going to happen because we've seen what has already happened. So I don't know if there is a way for us to get more information regarding what the options are, because it's a great park. My kids played there for years, and so all that. But I mean, we've got to do something different, even if it's a porta potty, but especially if it's a structure that is going to be a permanent structure. We have to have a way to secure that structure at night, is my opinion. So if there's a way that we can maybe consider that as an alternative. Otherwise, I just unfortunately think that history will repeat itself. It has a way of doing that. So I would like to see a bathroom, but it has to be a fully secured structure. That's my opinion.
Can I just respond quickly?
Please.
So 100% agree. It has to be a bathroom. But we were dealing with, I mean, I'm 60 years old and I've been out there since I was, my dad played baseball when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, the Super Frogs. And those bathrooms were just far outdated and they were tucked back by, there used to be horseshoe pits back there, but they were tucked away and they were in a perfect environment for the homeless to reside there because there was another building in the front that was blocking it. So 100% on board as long as they're secured. I think in the beginning we might want to use a porta potty to take out back and forth, but definitely without secured bathrooms that would be a disaster.
Any other comments, colleagues? Councilman Moy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I would direct this to somebody in PD. There are ways, I hope, that we can use bathrooms at parks for children and women and men, all of us are. And I agree with Councilwoman Bertani. It was nuts what was going on in there. It sounded just like San Francisco. That has these problems. Are there ways, is my question, are there ways to have a safe and secure bathroom? Nobody
Indeed,
knows?
an excellent question.
Yeah.
Councilman Tim, please.
Chief.
That is an excellent question, Councilwoman Moy, to which I don't have the exact answer, but I would say there are ways, but it's probably incredibly expensive. I think to Councilman Tonneson's point about having the old ones tucked back away, bringing them closer to where they're more public would be better. But, the other thing, and we've talked about this with Christina in Parks and Rec, and having some park rangers or somebody that has some enforcement ability to be at the parks, and also we've talked about it around the campus here with the City Hall campus. And so having security or potentially having a code, so it's locked by code, and the code could be given to anybody that's reserving the park and only give it to them, and then they can give it out to their the kids that are going to use it, and try not to get that out or something. Maybe those are things I think it would be worth definitely looking at. There's got to be cities that have figured it out, and so I would say definitely doing some research on that would be good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Tim, please.
Yeah, thank you. My question is, how much did the bathrooms at Allen Witt cost? Allen Witt.
So
You remember?
we will be putting restrooms in for the next phase at Allen Witt, and that's a 3-stall ADA, all gender neutral, and that configuration is roughly $300,000.
So we have bathrooms there now, because they had a veterans thing, and they had one bathroom open for everybody, and it was pretty much beat up. Then they had bathrooms where you had a code if you reserved it. So I would want to know, how many times is Lee Bell reserved, right? I mean, if you're just showing up, it's not reserved. The biggest problem is if you put in 3, you give somebody a place to hide. And we all know what happens. Pretty soon there's a tent attached to it. We also know we don't have park rangers. Inflation's coming. I'd rather see real officers, right? So we're not going to have anybody there. 4 is going to be expensive. You're talking about putting it in the CIP budget for 2 to 3 years out, right? If somebody rents it and says, hey, we want to use Lee Bell for a baseball tournament, then I think too, as needed, it's there during the day and then it's hauled out at night, because if not, the same problems that we're talking about today are going to resurface. And it was terrible. But I would just want to see options with money attached. And don't say like I said, don't say we're going to have somebody come check on it, because Public Works, they might drop something off and then they'll pick it up over the week, maybe on a Monday, just because manpower is what it is and it's difficult. But I'd want to see some more figures. And number 4, I guess, Scott, would probably be the best. Something that we can build, something that we can secure, whether you put a fence around it, and I mean something you can't climb over. But then again, who's going to go unlock it in the morning and lock it at night? And these are the questions that we have to ask. But I'm looking at the bottom line. What are the dollars? So.
Okay. Any other comments, colleagues? Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I would say, I agree with my colleagues. I mean, it has to be secure, because some of us were here sitting on the council when they were closed because of all the stuff that was going on there, and it was pretty bad. And Scott, I understand what you're saying too, though. I mean, there needs to be something for, when the games are going on and all that. I mean, it's really important, for, the kids, the adults, everybody to have a facility there. But I also think that, researching the safety issue is definitely something we need to do, because without it, it's just not going to work. I agree with that. So,
Councilman Panduro, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with all my colleagues and the questions that they're asking with regards to the permanent facilities. That's, I think, maybe the end goal would be. But it's also a great conversation to have leading up to other parks in the city. I know we had a conversation today with city manager regarding the 2 parks in my district, because I think as the city grows, the space between parks and a house is expanded, and so we can't just walk home to use the restroom, and especially when there is a playground present. And so I've had that with my own. I took my 2-year-old nephew to Wood Creek Park a couple of months ago, and he's learning he's getting potty trained, and so all of a sudden he had to use the bathroom, and I literally had to carry him to the car and rush him home because there was nowhere for him to go. And so just having that firsthand experience too, I'm getting a new perspective, and then just visiting my parks in my district more often as I have been, having these conversations now and defining, I think we're redefining or what a community park is, a neighborhood park, and where a bathroom can and can't go. It's a great conversation to start having. So thank you for the presentation.
Mayor, could I just say one more thing? And
Go ahead, Scott.
I don't want to gross anyone out, but because there's not bathrooms out there, doesn't mean no one's using the bathroom.
Yeah. Let me just, a couple of observations with you. When we opened the Hannigan train station, there were no bathrooms. And I serve on the Capital Corridors Joint Authority Board, and that was the big criticism. In the meantime, those regular commuters have figured out other ways that they'll be able to use the bathroom somewhere else before they get on board. And I spent some time at Aviano Air Force Base in Italy. And outside the gate, there was a concrete building. There were no parts that you could move by hand, and it was gross. In England, suburb of London, train station, very busy train station, and they have an attendant, and that restroom is only open during certain hours of the day, and that attendant has to stay there. So those are some other options to consider. But the question is, how do we do it in the most efficacious way, at the same time meeting the needs of the people who use the park? Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be very, very bad. So we need to be very cautious how we proceed here. If there's no other comments from colleagues, I'd like to have the public speak on this item, please. Anyone from the public willing to make a
I
comment?
don't have any requests to speak.
Anybody here interested in making some observations or some comments? John, please come back.
Mayor, you know, I do a lot of volunteer work at Rush Ranch, and we have our annual open house, and we just rent porta potties. And it seems to work. I think they were charging us $75 a day for 3 of them. I mean, well, 75 per for 3 of them. And it seems to work very well. And it seems to me that the park is not crowded 365 days a year. You know, you have the most use probably during the spring or the summertime anyway. And that's when you would have the porta potties out there, and you'd lock them at night. Things like this, you know, have the company, have the vendor do this, take care of them. The other thing I remember at Allen Witt Park, the permanent toilets there were filthy. I mean, I think you all remember that. And that's what's going to happen if you build, I think, a permanent one. They're going to be used. They're not going to be cleaned properly. It's going to happen. I would recommend you seriously consider porta potties when they're during the periods or the parts of the year when you expect people, and on request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other comments, colleagues? Mr. City Manager?
Are you looking for a proposal or for a
I'm
direction?
looking for some direction that we can get.
I would direct, start out with number 2 and then work on number 4. But just the fact that we're talking about it, you know, are the funds there to do a number 4? But certainly on the 2, maybe I will ask Christine a question. Are they making reservations out there? Are all those people making reservations with all those different leagues? And because there's like 3 or 4 different leagues out there: soccer, football, baseball.
We have, I believe, 4 groups that use it on a fairly regular basis seasonally, and they have about 20 to 30 in their groups individually, and then they have alternating days that they're out there. They're usually, and I don't have all the rental stuff with me. I don't know if you have anywhere, but I think they're out there traditionally about 90 minutes for their practices, and when there are larger tournaments or whatever, that we always recommend that they bring in porta potties because of the volume of people and having an extended time out there.
Okay, thank you.
And as was mentioned, for our events, typically I would say the average per unit is about $70 to $75, $80 to have them serviced, about $50 per service. And again, depending on if it's contracted, we may be able to get a better rate. But I do feel that it would be helpful to have those financial comparisons as well with the options.
Thank you. Yeah, I would recommend 2, starting out with option 2, and then obviously getting all the numbers together to make sure that option 4 would make sense and that it would you know, that PD would be okay with it, that it would be able to lock, because I know there's bathrooms too where they have like a revolving key. So the one group gets it, it has a code, they use that code, and then they change the code. So, hey, we're talking about bathrooms at Lee Bell. I'm happy.
I would second that. Okay. Councilman Bertani, please.
So, Councilman Tonneson, when you say start out with 2, we're talking about having one porta potty there a month, or one porta potty there every day, or what? I mean,
That is where I would like to see when the most will be out there, because having a porta potty just for the general, I think it's still a neighborhood park, but having a porta potty for the general public, that's not my interest. My interest is the kids. You know, so we would know the dates that those big groups are going to be out there. So I think it would be reasonable.
so we would have a porta potty when people reserve the park.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
That sounds like a very reasonable approach, and we can certainly try it. We have really nothing to lose at this point. Okay.
And these porta potties will be removed, maintained by, like Mr. Takayushi said, by the vendor, whoever brings them?
Yes. Traditionally, that is part of the service that would be established at the time, but I will also share that anytime you have a company take and deliver and take out, there's additional fees. So that's where I'm saying it would probably be very helpful to give you some financial data to back up, to say, is it worth having out there for a week and then removed, and then 2 weeks later have them come back, or have them there for a set period of time and then come up with some locking device or something like that. So I would appreciate having the opportunity to provide some of that more detailed financial.
Thank you, I agree 100%.
Any other comments?
Good direction.
Okay. So, Scott, want to make your motion again, please?
I'd like to see option number 2 for the time being to go along with the bigger groups, with the reservations. You'll have some fairly good numbers on that. And then work towards number 4, as long as it meets all of the criteria that we talked about with locking. And I'm sure in 2 to 3 years, maybe a year, I'm sure in 2 years plus, they're going to have different. California is going to adjust to this. So I'd be interested to see what the options are in 2 to 3 years. But yeah, I would motion that we have, if it's even a motion, I would give direction number 2 in the beginning and then work towards number 4.
With the caveat of the financials.
Correct.
And it's been seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a good presentation.
Yeah.
Item 8, public hearings. Public hearing and resolution 2022-292 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield adopting a mitigated negative declaration, ER 2021-038, and approving a general planned amendment, GPA 2021-003, and a zone change, ZC 2021-005, for the 8012 Industrial Center project involving 2 industrial warehouse buildings on approximately 19.44 acres at 300 Chadbourne Road, APNs 0028 750-240, -250, -260, -270, -290, and -300, and first reading and introduction of an ordinance 2022-16 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield, amending Chapter 25, Article 1 of the Fairfield City Code, also known as the zoning ordinance and the zoning map, to rezone approximately 19.44 acres at 300 Chadbourne Road, APN 0028-750-240, -250, -260, -270, -290, and -300 from regional commercial CR district to limited industrial IL district. And our presenter is Jonathan Atkinson, Community Development Management Analyst.
Good evening, Jonathan, and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Price and City Council members. Tonight I will be presenting a collection of requests as part of the 8012 Industrial Center project. These requests include a general plan amendment, zone change, and adoption of an environmental document. The site is 19.44 acres of land at 300 Chadbourne Road, just south of Highway 12. There's currently a vacant building with a large surface parking lot on the site that would be demolished as part of this project. The site was formerly home to Walmart, but has been largely vacant for approximately 10 years. The site is bounded by 12 to the north and Chadbourne Road to the west. There are a collection of existing developments surrounding this property. We have Jelly Belly to the east. We have Bush Campus Park to the south, and Sutter Health Medical Offices just across Chadbourne Road to the west. The predominant land use surrounding this site is largely industrial, specifically light and medium industrial operations. On August 24th, 2022, the Planning Commission held a public hearing for this project. The Planning Commission adopted resolution number PC 2022-09, in which the approval of a development review was granted. This action also included recommendations to the City Council to approve a general plan amendment and a zone change and adopt a mitigated negative declaration for the project. On October 13th, 2022, the Solano County Airport Land Use Commission reviewed the project because it involves a general plan amendment and a zone change. The Airport Land Use Commission adopted Resolution 22-12, determining that this project is consistent with the Travis Air Force Base Land Use Compatibility Plan. The site is currently zoned CR Regional Commercial District and has a general plan land use designation of highway and regional commercial. Areas with the current designation typically include several types of commercial uses that serve not only the local market, but a market beyond Fairfield and Suisun City. City Council approval of the zone change from IL, or Limited Industrial District, and general plan amendment to limited industrial are required to facilitate the planned industrial development. Areas with the proposed designations typically include warehouses, wholesale distribution, research and development, also light manufacturing and assembly, and to a lesser degree, some office uses. The required findings to approve the general plan amendment as well as the zone change are presented in your packet. The development review approval and request before the City Council tonight would allow for the construction of 2 industrial buildings. Building 1 would have an approximate area of 103,000 square feet, whereas the second building would have approximately 225,000 square feet. Following a review of the project, staff prepared an initial study to analyze potential significant impacts under the California Environmental Quality Act. This initial study identified a handful of impacts: biological resources, cultural resources, hazardous materials, transportation, and last but not least, tribal cultural resources. However, all potential significant impacts can be mitigated to a less than significant impact with the implementation of the mitigated negative declaration. The environmental document is included as part of your packet. Just wanted to note that. Before I go into my recommendation, I just wanted to note that there was a very brief edit that was made to the resolution. It struck zone change from your resolution on the dais. So my recommendation would be for the City Council to adopt the revised Resolution 2022-292. This would grant approval of the general plan amendment, that's GPA 2021-003, and adoption of the mitigated negative declaration, that's ER 2021-038. Staff also recommends that the City Council conduct the first reading of Ordinance 2022-16, and this would initiate the zone change ZC 2021-005 from Regional Commercial District to Limited Industrial District. I would be happy to answer any questions from the City Council. I also wanted to note that members of the applicant team are present in the chambers should any questions arise. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Any comments or questions for Jonathan? Okay. Scott, did you have a comment?
I actually have some, well, I can probably ask you, Jonathan. It's zone commercial. We want to go to limited light industrial. Has the commercial not been getting any play? Have you've been marketing it and just nothing's happening? Is that for commercial use?
So I would probably want to lean towards our economic development division to answer if there's been any inquiries, but I could say as a lifelong resident of Solano County, I could just tell from observation this site's largely been vacant since Walmart left for North Texas Street. Occasionally there's been some like temporary businesses that have popped up over the years, but it's largely been vacant. And I also think the developer may be able to answer if they've gotten any inquiries on this property.
No, I'm good. I mean, I know that they've been trying to market it. I just, we're making a zoning change, so. But no, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, colleagues? This has been a long time coming, and it's good to see that we're about to make some progress here. So thank you very much, Jonathan. Any other comments? Are there any public comments? I'll open the public hearing, please.
No, there are no requests to speak.
We'll close the public hearing, bring it back for council action, please.
We've got somebody who wants to speak.
Oh, I'll reopen the public hearing, please.
Will Parker, thank you.
It was legible. Thank you for having us, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. I'm Will Parker. I serve as principal with Trammell Crow Company. I'm in charge of our industrial business in Northern California. And I'm joined tonight by Curtis Tubbs and Lauren Black and Lena Pan, who's with us via Zoom, as well as our entire design team who serve as consultants on this project. We are very excited to bring this forward, as we have to Planning Commission as well as the Airport Land Use Commission just in the past couple weeks. This is our second project in Fairfield. We originally came to the area through a relationship with Sutter Hospital, who sold us a site across the street from the subject site on Chadbourne Road. The subject project, this project, is complementary, we think, not only to the industrial fabric of the city in this area, but also to that first project. What do I mean by that? We typically design projects on our team with more than one building, consistent with the plan before you this evening. That signals to companies that we have enough scale for them to expand in the future if needed. Importantly, it also allows companies to occupy a single building. This is two buildings, small and medium in size versus one larger building, that gives local and companies an opportunity to expand into those, and other companies potentially from the interior Bay Area to move up here into a single building. That makes a big difference. I think it's more important for companies to have a standalone building that they occupy versus a smaller share of a larger building. That approach has worked well for our team over the last 16 years that I've been a part of this company. Companies located in our industrial projects that this team has designed and built, the folks in this room, the folks on the phone tonight, include Google in 3 buildings in Silicon Valley, Tesla in 2 buildings in Livermore, Tesla supplier Draxelmeier from Germany in another building, and many others. And as we discussed early on with city staff and neighbors, there truly is a need for this type of product. The Q3 numbers just published for Solano and Napa counties, the overall vacancy rate for this type of building across the 2 counties is under 1%. The vacancy rate in Fairfield is 1.4%. There's not enough space, and I think this is the logical place in the city for this type of use to go. This will bring companies into Fairfield. It will, hopefully, from the 880 corridor or other locations. Importantly, it also provides an area for companies to grow if they're already here. A couple notes, just contextually about the site and the project. Our numbers were slightly different than Jonathan's. It struggled for a long time as a retail establishment. I believe it was vacant for over 15 years in this location. So clearly retail at this site has not worked for a very long time. We have been approached on occasion by temporary uses, parking requirements, and other for use of this site, but nothing substantial. In the past 12 months, unfortunately, we've had roughly 25 incidents on site of break-ins and other types of crime. We've owned the project for about a year and have had that volume of activity over that time frame. So for the neighborhood, for our project, we've hired property management teams to step in to monitor the buildings. We've also hired security teams to patrol the area 3 times a day. We would like to thank the police department, fire departments for their role in helping us keep the site safe. We've tried to repay the kindness by letting police train on the site and have offered the same to the fire department. This project obviously solves that. Putting a Class A facility in this location, I think, solves that issue for this site and for the neighborhood. Regarding the new project, it will be a first-class light industrial space with ample glass and skylighting, and I think present very favorably in this location. This project will have a high environmental standard and be certified LEED Silver. We're going to great lengths to keep the existing redwood trees on site around the project perimeter. We're actually preserving in the plan 126 of those around the exterior of the site. We're also contributing just under $500,000 to tree mitigations in the city. The project will employ approximately 260 construction workers on site, many more when you factor in full-time employment. There's roughly 313 parking spaces on site. Typically, the jobs produced by a facility like this are actually greater than the number of parking spaces if you have different shifts. So I'll leave it there and just say we look forward to this opportunity. We appreciate your support and consideration tonight. Thank you very much. We'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Any comments or questions? Councilman Tin, please.
Yeah, Mr. Parker, do you have it leased yet, sir? Do you
At
have
least?
do you have tenants in mind?
We have tenants in mind, but we do not have a lease. Typically, we get interest on projects when they're fully under construction and when it's going vertical, when people can see that it's real and it's actually happening, and we're putting the investment in. It's not an easy thing right now, obviously.
Right. So
rates are high, et cetera.
I get it. So your employees then, it's kind of a guesstimation depending on what kind of business goes into these buildings?
We typically build on a speculative basis, throughout Northern California. We've been most successful recruiting companies by making the investment first. In this case, it's an investment of, I believe, over $70 million that we put in up front and recruit companies to come here. The buildings have some flexibility to adapt depending on who's available. But I think it's safe to say in this environment with the vacancy rates low and more builders deciding not to build, I think the need will be even greater.
Okay. What I would say is I'm in favor of your project, but also too, I don't want us to lose sight of if you've got, say, 300 employees coming there, they have to live somewhere. Actually, I would have liked to seen high-density high-rises there. And all I would say is it sounds like a great project. I agree with it. But don't lose sight that we have the jobs, right? We just need the workers. And we understand the pressure that we are facing every single day. Usually there's a lot of people in here yelling at us because we need housing. And where do you put the housing? So I'm in support of it. Just to my colleagues, don't lose sight of our housing requirements in the future. So thank you, Mr. Parker. I appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Councilman Tonneson, please.
And thank you, Mr. Parker. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. More of a curiosity question. Ingress, egress, is it just the 2 spots from Chadbourne, or is there an out somewhere in the back or on the side?
Yeah, there is existing infrastructure on the site that's substantial. It's designed to handle retail traffic from the past, which is a much higher traffic count than what our site will produce. So there's 2. There's the light that has the main entry. There's also a right in, right out just to the north. And we'll preserve both of those.
But there's nothing going out the back because there's a vacant lot in between you 2 and Gillespie there.
Correct. There's nothing going out the back.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments, colleagues? My sense is that your project, once it's completed, will be further evidence that we need to move the westbound truck scales. And the funding would then perhaps become available for that. We're very aggressively pursuing it. So thank you very much for your comments. Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Close any other comments? Close the public comments. Entertain a motion to approve. It's been moved by Councilman Tim, seconded by Councilwoman Moy. All in favor? Aye. Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Are we voting on both items?
Both items, yes, please.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would advise that you first vote on the resolution and then the ordinance. So it should be a two-step process to first vote on passing the resolution
Okay.
and then introducing the ordinance.
Okay. So those two actions, please.
So my motion then is to adopt the resolution.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Then I'll make a motion then.
The first reading.
And the motion will be to waive the full reading of ordinance 2022-16, read by title only, and introduce the ordinance for first reading.
Correct.
Okay.
I need a second.
Multiple seconds, yes. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Well done, Jonathan. Thank you. And before we adjourn this evening, on Veterans Day, do you remember when the two young ladies from Fairfield, Connecticut drove an electric vehicle all the way across the country? Well, on Veterans Day that afternoon, the Ford dealership here in town is going to be doing an open house, and part of the open house will be an opportunity for you to participate, anybody around here, to participate in a raffle. And the raffle is a 2-year lease of an electric vehicle. So put that on your calendars, please. Tell your friends and neighbors. Head out there, too. There is no other business before this body. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.
Okay.